Hey guys, how are you? So, thanks for joining the stream. I just felt like streaming today once again. So, let me know if you can hear me by saying I can hear you, Steph, in the comments. Yeah, I'm gonna wait just a couple minutes. We'll have a quick little chat so I can let a few more people come online. Um, Reason I'm doing that is because it seems that YouTube doesn't send notifications when I do a pre-launch, if you will. It has to, the stream actually has to start, and then people start getting notifications. Anyway, I hope everybody is well. I hope everybody is well. Yeah, what we got here? Andy, hello. All right. How's Toronto? Okay, I'm in Montreal, but I think the weather here is similar to Toronto. I can hear you, Steph. I can hear you. Good, good, good. I appreciate it. Thanks for letting me know. Uh, yeah. Let me know where you guys are watching from, what part of the world. Hi from Italy. Some people know the deal. That's cool. Carlo, hello, Carlo. How are you? Carlo, how are you? Good, 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 good. All right. Sound check. Good. Video. Good, good, good. All right. I got notification. Okay, Adam got notification. That's cool. Well, Saudi Arabia, very cool, very cool. Huh. All right, see, people are starting to get on pretty quick now, 78, 79. I hope everybody is well. So I decided to do this stream because I saw some conversations in the YouTube chats with regards to, well, the subject, new languages, new frameworks coming out all the time. How should you handle this? How should you think about this as a developer? Because it can get pretty frustrating, right? Every 2 days, it seems, something new comes out, something new comes out. And of course, the people who are putting out the new technology, they're of course telling you how great it is. You got to learn this, and it's unbelievable, and everything else is junk. So this is common. This is nothing new. This has been going on since the days of the dinosaurs. So yeah, Philippines, Google, Malaysia, fantastic. Wow, it's C++ learning 2020. Sid, watching from Florida. What part of Florida are you watching from, Ryan? I might be going down to Florida a little later this year if the borders open up. Yugoslavia, Saudi Arabia again. I'm working on your foundation courses. You are interrupting. Very cool. Thanks for having picked up the course. I appreciate that. Well, okay, so we're 92. So what I'm going to do is I'll just jump in. I'll lead with the conclusion, just in case some of you have to go play Apex or Call of Duty or something, or get back to your StudioWeb courses. So at the end of the day, it's very common in the technology space, but every year, every few months, you might see a new language, new frameworks, et cetera, new libraries. Now, what I would strongly suggest in those situations, and people know this channel, know my answer already. In those situations, you gotta take it easy because most new technologies don't go anywhere. First of all, most new technologies do not go anywhere, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Why that will happen? Typically, it's because the new technology is not significantly enough better in a broader sense to replace some existing technology. It does happen once in a while, but it is very, very, very rare. And let me just say, back in the 1990s, in the early 2000s, it was more common that you see a new technology displace an old. I saw several things happen. But there was a reason about why it happened a lot in the 1990s and early 2000s. That's because the web-based programming space and the software development space was really ramping up at that time. There was a rapid rate of change because the technology overall was pretty new. That's normal. If you look at any industry, in the early inceptions of the industry, if you will, you're going to see a lot of changes, a lot of updates as people figure out how to best do things. But over time, as the technology matures, the rate of change slows down. So this is a steep learning rate of change, meaning a lot of new things in a short period of time. And as any technology matures, any space, it flattens out like this. Meaning up and down is the rate of change, and this is time. So rate of change very much diminishes over time. So what you're seeing in the software development space, with the exception of AI, machine learning, maybe you can talk about that in terms also similar phenomena with crypto perhaps. But in terms of just general programming, especially the web stack, it's pretty stable now. It's pretty stable now because over the last, whatever it is, 20, 25 years now, we pretty much figured out how to do it, right? That's why if you look at all the various server-side web frameworks, whether it be Python, Django, PHP Laravel, the .NET framework, et cetera, they're all very, very similar. Not 100% similar, there's no question, but they're all very similar in terms of how they handle things. And there's a reason for it, because we've kind of figured out over the last couple of decades, since the 90s, how to do things properly. I can tell you, way back in the day, it was Wild West. Every 6 months, a year or so, there would be pretty big changes, but they were required changes because in those days, the technology was immature and had a lot of problems. Now it's very secure. So back to the main question, you got all these new languages, new frameworks coming out. Should you be super concerned? Short answer is no. What you ought to do is maybe, your left eye, look a little bit, maybe read a little introduction to the tech, and just leave it at that. There's two classifications of technology I have. Silo 1 is the core fundamental tech that you should all know, because that's the foundation to everything. It's going to make your life easier as a programmer. And silo number 2 is I categorize as the need-to-nerd technologies. These are new technologies, new libraries, new frameworks, new languages that are out there that might be useful given a certain project. You should be somewhat aware of what's out there, but I wouldn't be too concerned about it. When you actually look out in the job market, what you're going to see is 20 and 25 and 30-year-old technologies dominate by far. If you look at any of the language list, it's all about Java, C++, C#, PHP, Python, JavaScript. These are the dominant players. SQL for the databases, then of course HTML5 and CSS3. This is what dominates. And these things have been around for ages. So there you go. I would not have any anxieties over all these new tech coming out. It's impossible for you to learn all these things. There's no developer in the world who even knows 5% of what's out there in terms of practical skills. But if you know your fundamentals well, you are a master of the foundations. For you to learn a new tech is pretty trivial. It's very quick. Because what you're also going to see as you become more experienced, all these new libraries and languages and frameworks and database types, they're just variations of old themes, like, NoSQL servers are a high-end flat file system, which have been around since the longest time. Various relational databases that are out there, whether it be MySQL, Oracle, or SQL Server, whatever, it's all variations of the same thing. Yes, they have their own capabilities, their pros and cons, and so on, but once you understand how relational databases work, for you to pivot into one to the other is very simple. Once you understand object-oriented programming, for you to move from one object-oriented programming language to another, simple. Once you understand what a front-end JavaScript framework is like, whether it be React or Vue or Angular, for you to pivot from one to the other is pretty trivial. Okay? So that's the long and short of it. I wanted to cover that quickly for you guys. So under 10 minutes, fantastic. So I'll do a little Q&A, and then I'm going to head out because it's such a sunny day out there. All right, we got 132 people. If you liked this subject, let me know. Give me a big thumbs up. It's good for the YouTube algorithms. The more response I get to the live streams, the more likely I'm going to do live streams. That's it. So, all right. So, David Sagar. Okay, let's see what we got see what we got here. Do you agree that C#.NET is good middle ground between the enterprise and startup cultures? Yeah, I like C#. I like the .NET framework from what I recall. I haven't used it in a long time. it's one of those key languages, I would say. If you're picking a language to learn in the pool, there's so many programming languages out there. C# would be one of them. Would be C# and JavaScript and Python and PHP and Java. These are amongst like the core languages. C++, I think I said that. These I would learn because for example, you learn C#, and for whatever reasons you decide not to work in C#, there's no jobs, or maybe you don't like it, who knows, whatever. For you to pivot from C# to JavaScript would be like, boom, like this, or to Java would be like this, etc. So that's why I would do that. Let's see what we got here. Another question. Hey, Stefan, I'm a Node, Vue, React dev. That's cool, nice stack, but I got a very well-paid job requiring me to write RPGL for IBM I. I don't know what RPGLE is. The job is very well paid, but I'm realizing I truly hate IBM I. What do I do? Well, do you have a good job now with Node, Vue, and React, or are you a starving nerd? I don't know. If you don't have work right now and it's very well paid, I know, suffer a little bit, make a few bucks. In the meantime, start applying for other jobs and bank that money. Remember, the quickest way to get wealthy is to make money and not spend it, and to have habits of savings. Very important, because I want you guys to find yourself in a position where you're coasting in a short period of time. What do I mean by coasting? Meaning you got plenty of money in the bank, you got money coming in, you don't worry about paying your bills, and you do this by developing habits of saving. So I would, it depends. If you're already making good money, then I wouldn't move up to make a little bit more. But if you're not making any money, take the job for a few months, 6 months, gain some XPs there, level up a little bit, and start applying for other jobs and save a bunch of money. So that, after 6 months, if you save half or more of your money, then you've got a nice runway to be able to pick and choose what you want to do next. What's this? David Sagar. The only book to read. Are you asking me what is the only book if in a code, I guess in the programming space? I would say, if you are an experienced developer, I would say Refactoring by Martin Fowler. Refactoring by Fowler. That would be my choice, if you're an experienced dev. On H. Do you have any plans to host chats and videos for those with a bit more experience? Well, I do we do private Zooms in my mentoring program. That's one of the huge benefits. It's usually a small group, maybe 10 people, 20 people. I don't know the exact numbers. And we can go into much more in-depth there. People can ask questions and so on. Yeah, that's true. Ruby 3 is coming out. We'll see if they can address problems. But I read an article by the creator of Ruby, the founder. He was saying, I don't think they could really address some of the core issues with the lack of speed in the language, if I recall. I make fun of Ruby for fun. I make fun of Ruby to make fun of people who care about which language they're using, who are zealots. Because you know me, I say any language is good, just depends on the circumstances. Except Ruby. No, I'm just kidding. Ruby is... We actually developed an app in Ruby years and years ago, but it was good for that job. But if you want, it wouldn't be my first choice, that's for sure. But it's a cool language in many respects. This is the perfect subject. Thanks, man. Watching from Lithuania. I'm glad you like it. I hope you got the answer that you needed. All right. Reda says, I want to start using React Native. Do I really need to learn React first? I couldn't say. I'm not a React person, but make sure you know your JavaScript, and just try it out. Soul Rebel, what software are you using to put questions on the screen one by one? Looks very sharp. I'm using something called ecam, which is a Mac-based software. There's a few solutions, but this is one I like. Why not talk about Golang? Are you hate it? I just don't know much about Golang. I categorize Golang in silo number 2 as a need-to-nerd language. I think you would use a Golang in a highly specialized situations where you might need its special capabilities, which I think is probably rarely needed. So, again, I'm not dissing Golang. I'm just saying that it's not compelling enough for me in most situations to want to look at it. That's all. But, if it works for your situation, then do it. Is Java relevant for the back end? That's where Java really lives. Well, it does Android too, but Java is huge. Java in 20 years is still going to have a big footprint simply because there's a massive investment in the Java ecosystem by huge companies, David Sagar. I get you. I can read a person, his or her heart. Apart from this world, sir, you are coming with me into the word. All right. I'm not sure what the word is, but I guess that's a good thing. Let's see, Emmanuel. On your personal experience, what was the most robust website you have made in terms of functions, and what was your process? It's hard to say. My dating site was pretty complex. It's going back way back in the day. But StudioWeb is also pretty complex too. It has a lot of capabilities. What people see when you use StudioWeb as a student, you see like a small fraction of of what it actually does. A lot of the tools and so forth are available for teachers and schools and districts. Hi, I am a student at school. We're using C#, JS, with HTML, CSS, PHP, TypeScript, and React. Should I continue my studies or go for a job? Well, if you feel that you're learning, then keep going. If it's free, keep going. If it's very cheap, keep going. And maybe you can start looking for jobs on the side part-time. Don't cut yourself off from this before you jump into that. You know what I mean? Je code. I remember Je code. Bonjour. I am trying to learn React. There are so many free resources out there. Do you think React documentation alone is enough? Merci. I haven't looked at the React documentation. It depends on how well it is written. I'm not sure. I don't know what the word is on that. One of the things that differentiates successful open source projects and not so successful is documentation. But not so funny if you think about it. If you know your foundations, you're comfortable with the web stack, you're comfortable with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you understand HTTP, request response, etc., then I would just find a quick 10-minute tutorial on React and just jump from there and start writing code. Don't get caught up in tons of tutorials, and maybe try the docs out. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube. How to do this React in 10 minutes, something like that. See how it goes. After graduating university, internship, or junior engineer. Well, I think you would be doing an internship while at university. Get what you can. Get what you can, huh? What are some good programming podcasts? I don't know. I don't follow any. This one, I guess. Which programming language and framework would you prefer for any kind of web development? Which one you feel is easy? I tend to lean towards, because I'm involved in small, medium-sized projects. I tend to just go with Laravel because it's such a well-organized framework. It's a PHP framework. What the Laravel creator did is he took the best of what was out there in PHP world, and he took lots of ideas from Ruby Rails and other things, and he incorporates these, like Vue, for example, is integrated into Laravel. It's just a well-built framework, but they're all pretty good these days. They're all pretty good. Depends on what you're looking for. I like using PHP. Not because it's the prettiest language syntactically, it clearly is not, but it's just a very capable language. It's very efficient. It runs at runtime. PHP runs circles around Python. It runs circles around Ruby. I don't know about Express though, and I have not checked out the data there, but PHP is extremely memory efficient, meaning it's fast. Like when they went from PHP 5.6 to 7 a few years ago, they literally increased the speed by 50%. And they've been working really hard to optimize it. But as I said, they're all pretty capable now. Emmanuel Ang, hey Steph, what's the difference between procedural programming and OOP? Procedural is kind of the original type of programming. It's just it's just code that's strung together, and it's based on processes. So the code is structured according to how things process. So it starts, okay, we do this, and the next step we do that. It's hard to explain it in a live broadcast. But it's easy to explain it. If I explain object-oriented coding is different in that it conceptualizes the program as being discrete, separate little mini programs that communicate with each other. Procedural is one big thing, and object-oriented is little discrete modules that communicate with each other. You use procedural. They're both good. Procedural type languages will run faster because there's not nearly as much overhead. But speed is not an issue for most apps these days because, software is so powerful, because hardware is so powerful. If it's super, super simple stuff, you can just do a quick little procedural, knock it out, if the language supports it. But generally speaking, I would just go the OOP route. Why? Because it just makes it easier to maintain the code base. It makes it easier to keep the code base up to date. I don't know that. RD Comics, what is the best platform to find remote jobs? I don't know. What do you think of site reliability engineering as a career? I don't know. I think that's niche. You're much better off as a developer in terms of money making. Any thoughts on Palantir? Yeah, the Palantir, isn't that a Lord of the Rings crystal ball? I forget all of a sudden what I know Palantir is some sort of tech. I just forget what it is. So I don't have an opinion. I love to study design patterns. Oh, that's good. You're getting into advanced intermediate then. That's good stuff. Or higher maybe. I think I'm switching to indie iOS app dev because I want to make products, not be the product. I'd rather sell apps than myself. Yeah. There's different levels of earning money as a coder. One level is just working for a company, which is fine. I know some people have done really well doing that. Next level is to start freelancing, so you're kind of an independent contractor. Then on top of that, you go freelance and you hire developers under you. And then the highest level, and the most difficult, of course, is putting out your own software that you market into the marketplace. The problem with developing apps for whether it be for iOS or for Android is that there's a huge number of them, so it's a big job to get noticed nowadays. But if you get it to work, it's a ticket to passive income, but it's harder. Here we go. Here's an answer. I'm using React Native and Vue. I never even learned React, so no, you don't need to learn React first. There's your answer from somebody who's done it. Frank, do you ever plan on doing a podcast? Yeah, I like to. I have an old one. I think the channel is still there. I just haven't had time. It's just time for me. Just time. Nikhil Satish. As a beginner, how can I go about and become successful, well-taught developer? Write lots of code. Get projects. Write lots of code. Hello, Franco. Thanks for joining. Hi from Montreal, Canada. That's a good one. Salman Ali. What is the roadmap of software architect? I know some people who try to become software architects having not written code. I know a couple in particular, and they're just terrible at our software architecture because they don't understand coding. So I believe to become a software architect, personally, I believe you have to do at least a few years of coding. So you understand the reality of writing code under deadlines and under pressure with live users, et cetera, et cetera. It's a big difference from doing tutorials or working academically on this kind of stuff. Once you've done a few years, in my opinion, as a developer, then you can start boning up on architecture. Although as you write real projects as a developer, you're going to understand architectures and the pros and cons of different approaches. That's my suggestion. I wrote software for years before I decided to start really getting into high-level architecture. What else? Let's see what we got from Kimmy. See how so many web jobs are saturated with applicants. What advice would you give the actual jobs of a new developer? Thank you. I don't know if I buy that premise simply because I know that there's a huge demand for developers. Improve your skills, improve your portfolio, make sure you got good communication skills. I gotta put out that video FAQ for people. These are some common questions. Okay, your code says thank you. Okay, Rita says thank you. There we go. Adrian, we'll see what he has to say. I work across the full stack, including DevOps, full stack engineering, data science, machine learning. Wow, that's pretty broad. I'm having trouble pricing my hours. Any advice? Yeah, so what you got to do is in your market, I would first research how much they're paying for full-time people. That kind of gives you a baseline. So, I don't go to Indeed.com and then you want to look at the demand as well. Like, is there a huge demand for this specialization versus that specialization? And then you start pricing accordingly. And then what you want to do, you want to really emphasize your broad range of skills, because if I was to hire somebody, I would like somebody who can come with the full stack background and a bit of data science background. That broad set of skills could be very handy given the job, So that's what I would do. And then start throwing out bids. Start throwing out bids at different price points. Start raising them each time and see if the market will bear it. You never know. You never know. You never know. Like in my last year or two as a freelancer, this is going back a long time, I was billing out about 200 the hour, but I didn't sell myself that way. I teach how to get huge money in freelance in my freelance course, and I know guys who are doing 300. So if you know how to price yourself properly, you can make a lot of money as a freelancer. Is Firebase good for huge web apps? I would imagine so, but don't be so concerned about scale and scaling a web app when you're first building something. You won't get there for a while. You know what I mean? Pick a stack that you're just productive with. You can always switch out the database if you design your app properly. It's not a huge deal. Although I've rarely seen that. In all honesty, in terms of switching from one database to the next, it's very rare that ever happens. But that's another story. I know Python, I'm good at it, but I haven't learned Django yet. I have recently completed HTML, SAS advanced course. I'm trying to get expertise at what should I do next, learn Django or JavaScript. I would get a job. I would look to start doing little jobs on the side, little projects, and maybe look at the local market, see if there is demand for Django, and then take it from there, let the jobs follow you, but I think guide you rather. I think that you have to start getting out there into the real world and start really building things. Now we'll give you an idea of what's going on and how to proceed. Inner Man Arts. How do I know when I am good enough to start freelancing? I want to make apps and websites for clients using React and Firebase. Well, you're good enough when you're comfortable throwing together a basic web app. When you can go boom, 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 something basic, maybe a login, maybe integrate an API, then you're ready to go. And then you learn the rest as you go. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. That's a tech maker and hacker. What is your tech stack for StudioWeb front end and back end? PHP, Laravel, Vue.js, and MySQL. And we've handled huge numbers of students at given time. So it's quite capable. Who's spamming here? Okay, where is this? Deepak Yadav. I'm going to find this guy. See if he's spamming. Hold on. Don't spam my feed. Anyway, I can't find him. If I see him again, I'll get him. Does Laravel version really matter? Depends on the feature set. Depends on the feature set, you know? All right, see what happens. I'm gonna lighten up the image here. Did that work? No, I didn't press the button hard. Hold on a second, guys. There we go. So lighten up that image. There we go. That's a bit better. So yeah, does it really matter? It depends on the feature set, but you don't want to get too far behind in terms of your core framework. You don't want to do that, that's for sure. All right. Hamza. Hi, Stefan. Do you still program today? Which language you use the most today or use the most in the last 12 months? I'm not a software coder these days. I just don't have the time. I manage development of some software of mine, and that's about it. Once in a while I write code, but you know, I've been doing this for decades, so sometimes you got to do other things. Hey, Steph, is reading a JavaScript book still relevant or watching video? Which is better? I think video is better for beginner stuff. And I think when you're getting deep into the core nuts and bolts, down the rabbit hole of any topic, a good book, well laid out, could be better. So videos, beginner, intermediate, visual stuff, core concepts, deep into concepts. The book is better, in my opinion, in that situation, so you can underline, highlight things, and so on. Or you can get an audio book in that situation, just hear it over and over again. For you to really internalize anything, so you remember it really well, you have to, especially a book, you have to read it many times. You have to write a lot of the code. You have to express it in code. So there you go. Still bullish on Flutter in 2021. I haven't looked at it recently, so I would have to check into it, but I was bullish back when it just came out, and I think it had some sort of impact. I would have to go take a look, though, see what's going on now. I like that. Favorite design pattern? That is, I call it the filter pattern. I used to use it quite a bit in my Java days. I used to use something called a servlet filter. And a filter is kind of like dependency injection. And so basically, the way I envision web apps is like a stream of information. Think of water. And when you put a filter, it's literally like putting a filter, and you're massaging or transforming that information as it passes through a filter. And the great thing about the filter patterns, you just drop it in, pull it out, drop it in, pull it out. So it's kind of an independent injection of code, if you will, that's not attached to the stream, but just filters the stream of data. That's my favorite design pattern. And then, of course, MVC. I would say those are the two most important ones for me. Hi, Steph. I'm learning program by teaching myself. That's cool. I'm currently working on an Android and web development. What do you advise us to do in this business? I think you're going to find a lot more work in web development, although they're both good choices. Play around with either or, and then decide which one you prefer, and then take it forward. All right. What's up we got? Give me a thumbs up if you like the stream. Your thoughts on a career of web developer and digital marketing together? Why not? I think on a per hour basis, the web developer is the lower hanging fruit and a more valuable skill set, but in time, digital marketer, especially if you establish a very good book and a great reputation, you can make a lot more money. See what Rob has to say. Often said, don't try to reinvent the wheel, but if nobody reinvented the wheel, we would be riding around stone wheels. Thoughts? Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think it's just, it's a question, is your new wheel going to be significantly better? That's all. And that's a judgment call. Yeah, you always got to innovate. Innovation is usually incremental. But, innovating for the sake of innovation has its merits, but innovate based on a need that has to be satisfied. I think that's a better way of doing it. Yeah, it's a better way of doing it. So, for example, when I'll talk a very small example. So Twitter Bootstrap. So Twitter put out this Bootstrap framework to make it easy to lay out responsive websites. And they did that because at the time, the CSS technology was a real fugazi. It was not the greatest. And it was difficult to lay out pages that are responsive and worked in all the browsers. So the fine people at Twitter put out the Twitter Bootstrap framework, and specifically the grid, which made it so much easier for developers to put out modern layouts with CSS. That was a technology created out of necessity. It was very important, you know. So anyway, nowadays I would not be a big fan of, excuse me. Nowadays I would not. I got distracted by a DM. Nowadays I would not. I would lean towards CSS Grid and Flexbox over Bootstrap, but I bet you there's tons of Bootstrap code out there. So I would put that in the Need2Nerd category of tech. Just, you do a 10-minute tutorial on what Bootstrap is, so if you ever run across it, you'll be able to do what you need to do with it. Okay, what's all we got? All right, we're going to be ending this soon. It's almost 40 minutes, and I want to go get a bite to eat. David Sagar, what does he have to say? Apart from all the money, knowledge, and future in it, what else am I investing my seconds of life and efforts in? I can see the entire collective germination of it. Where is it heading towards? That's an existential question. Kierkegaard, right? My new video book, The Lizard Wizard, is going to help you with that, I think. I think the number one choice this is me. For me, it was about personal freedom. Freedom of choice, freedom of my time, and also personal accomplishment. Now, at different stages in your life, you're going to have different psychological needs that you're going to want to satisfy. So for me, when I started my first company, I just had this desire to create things. And my first company had nothing to do with tech. Then I know people, friends of mine, middle-aged, they have kids, so then they're motivated by supporting their kid, helping their kid out, supporting the family, make sure they do what they got to do. And then when you get older, you get to be my age, 169 years old. One of my main motivations is to help people, to pass on the knowledge, pass on the experience. I have to tell you, I get a kick when I hear from people that learned from me 10 years ago and 15 years ago and so on. And they come back and tell me what they've done in their careers and so on. That's great. So that's a good feeling for me. So yeah, why you do things in your life is a personal choice. But I think what you have to do initially is you have to basically get your own basic needs satisfied. So make sure you have good skills and start building up a war chest of cash so you don't have to worry about money so much anymore. And you do that by skills, reputation, and investments. And then when you're there, then you can spend your time maybe working on other aspects of your life that you might want to work on. Yeah, because at the end of the day, I can tell you buying fancy cars and having super beautiful vacations and super expensive equipment and TVs, and it becomes very unimportant later on in life. It becomes super unimportant. Also take care of your body. Make sure you're in shape, because if you're super rich but you're in constant pain and you're immobile and you're sick, it's no fun. So I hope that helps. What are we doing? Okay, 39. We're gonna answer one or two questions, then I gotta go. 192. Yeah, give me a thumbs up if you like this conversation. That's a nice place, Steph. Thank you. I'm glad you like it. Yeah, I bought a place downtown. I wanted to be right in the core. And then the zombie COVID epidemic hit. And now I've been working on my karate chops because I gotta keep the zombies away. Why not try slow motion chat, please? Mamta Jane. I'm not sure what you mean by slow motion chat. Thanks for the thumbs up, guys. I appreciate it. Again, the only reason I ask is it helps the Google AI algo, the algorithm, and it pushes the message out about the live streams. The more views I get with the live streams, I had stopped for a while. Now we're at 188, 187. We can get up to 500, 1,000. I'll be doing these much more often because I just want to reach more people. Typically, my live streams reach less people than my pre-recorded videos. So live streams I get maybe 3, 4, 5,000 views, and then my pre-records, non-live, they can get 10,000, 20,000 views. So I like to see if I can get these live streams up higher. If you like the live streams. All right, Nano. Hey, tell us what's the best front and back end for position and high salary. Front and back end. Use the job sites. Go to Indeed.com and they'll tell you where the demand is. They'll tell you where the demand is. But that's a good video. It should be in my video FAQs. I can talk about that. How to increase your value. Facts Overflow. Is Node.js Mongo reliable as a backend for an e-commerce site or to use Diana? I don't know. I would imagine so. Node and Mongo have such a, I know about them and they're pretty well known. They're in the upper tier technologies. So I imagine they're pretty solid, but I couldn't say. I have not used them. When I looked at Node a few years back, I didn't like the package management. I thought it was a real mess. So I stayed out of that. I don't know if it's cleaned up at this point or not. But listen, Netflix uses Node, so I imagine it's pretty good. Techie Compute says, Bonjour, Stefan. Is knowing Python enough for sysadmin? Yeah, I think if you know Python and you know basically your Unix and your Linux, I think you'll be pretty good there. It's good to learn programming. Having programming language in your back pocket, even if your goal is not to be a full-time programmer, it's just a good thing to have, It's just like a really good tool to have. Dave Love. All right, Dave Love. You might consider starting a podcast where you mentor noobs. Each mentee would put together enough questions to cover our 20-minute video each week. Now, that's $1 million idea or what? It's an interesting idea. For me, it's all just time. It's always about time. Time. Do I have time to do this? There's so many things I want to do, All right, let's see what we got here. How are we doing? 8:42. All right, one more question, I'm out of here. Okay. Look at that. Sunrise, Florida, cool. I love Florida. I have family in California, family in Florida part-time, good friends who are moving to Florida, living in Florida. And I love key lime pie and stone crabs. Stone crabs is one of my favorite foods of all time. So that's almost enough for me to want to move down to Florida just to get my stone crab and my key lime pie. What do we got? Can advanced math be self-taught for software development? You do not need advanced math for 99% of software development. So don't worry about it. You don't need advanced math unless you're going to maybe AI or something, or developing gaming engines. Would you learn a new programming language or framework just as a challenge or self-interest? I have several times. Even you probably won't use the framework as your day-to-day job. Not a game programmer, but I think about learning Unity. Why not? The more you learn, the more you earn. The more you learn, the more you earn. I would explore different technologies. Back in the day when I was in the first 5 years or so of my career, I would learn stuff on my own time. My dating site, which I talked about a few times, I actually built that just to play with different aspects of the the JDK, the Java Development Kit, just to understand what was going on, learn some new aspects of it. And so I said, I'll build a dating site and I'll leverage all these aspects, all these parts of Java to develop that dating site. And then it grew into something. And other times, I remember one time I had written something in Java. So .NET was in beta at the time. So I said, you know what, I'm going to rewrite something in C#.NET. And then I wrote part of it in VB.NET, which is basically just C#.NET with a different syntax. So I've done all that. Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's a good learning thing to do on the side, especially if you like what you're doing. Do you recommend I learn Ruby? This guy, is this Trip? Is this the first time you're on this channel? I don't understand. Well, if you want to learn Ruby. Just look at the local job. Depends what your point is. Do you want to learn Ruby for work-wise? Look at the local jobs, or you just want to do it for fun? I don't know. It's all good. Logan, I'm taking your web development course. I just started the HTML and CSS. Should I continue the JavaScript course or keep practicing HTML and CSS until I'm strong with it? What I would do HTML, CSS. I assume you've done all the quizzing, the code challenges. I hope you can download the project files, right, on the front page of each course, and try recreating the projects that I create in the course. Do all that, and then go into JavaScript. Do all the JavaScript, and then come back and revisit it, and then put it all together. That's my suggestion. But also, if you're getting tired of writing CSS one day, just pop in to do the JavaScript. That's the beauty of StudioWeb. As you know, the lessons are very short. So you can go in and do 5 lessons of JavaScript, do some quizzing, bing, 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 learn knowledge. Again, remember how your brain works. This will be part of the wizard training. Frequency of exposure is extremely important, meaning the sooner and more often you expose your brain to JavaScript, the more resources your brain is going to put into understanding JavaScript. Because when you're first learning how to code, especially a programming language, you're going to hit this intellectual wall. That's okay. That's normal. So you just got to go in there and write code, even if you don't understand what's going on with the code at first. So I would say mix it up. That's the beautiful thing about StudioWeb, as you know, right? You can go in there and you could be working on your CSS. You can just jump into JavaScript and just do a couple lessons, and a few days later jump back. It takes you right where you left off, and you can keep going. Emilio, I'm a Java developer and I want to find a job in Canada to move there. Do you have any tips? Make sure your resume is cool. I would talk to the Canadian consulate, maybe talk to potential employers in Canada, see what they have to say. I've lived here, so I couldn't give you advice on how to get here, but it's very job dependent. So you probably have to get some sort of company to sponsor you, if I recall. Okay, I'll end with this one, then I'm out. It's 50 minutes. What are some of your favorite projects to work on? What were the challenges? In terms of technology, most of the in the web stack, most of the challenge typically is with is database stuff. Most of the headaches is database stuff. That's most of the headaches. Back in the early 90s, even the late 90s, in the mid 90s, the big challenge was getting your code to work on the major browsers, because you had Netscape and you had IE, Internet Explorer. And the big challenge was to write code that could work on both, because they didn't interpret code the same way, which was so silly. And so that was a huge challenge. There were different approaches to handling that situation. Then later on, there was different challenges, like when I first started publishing video on the web in 2000, 2001 or something like that. There were major challenges there, because it's like we used to have something called real video or in Blaze video, and it was like thumbnail-sized video snippets, and it was just a real pain. So yeah, it depends. In terms of technical challenge, it depends on what time frame. Was it in 1990s, early 90s, mid 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, later? Then there's the business challenges, right? There's the business challenges. with StudioWeb, I wasn't sure how I was going to get the product into schools. There's a whole process there. It's very different from selling to individuals or selling to a normal business. So that was interesting to me. All right, I think that's it, guys. We're at 49 minutes. Oof. What's going on? People are spamming, but oh boy, you gotta stop spamming. I gotta get some moderators. Hi, user. All right, I hit that guy. Yeah, I hope he'll stop. All right, so next time I'll assign somebody a moderator. Okay, guys, that's pretty much it. I will let you go. I want to go and get a bite to eat before it starts raining. I hope you enjoyed the stream. If you did, give me a thumbs up. And of course, I'll end with my main ocean ASMR people love.